Hello, today we are going to talk about running Windows NT4, the operating system from Microsoft, on a MIPS CPU architecture using qemu. So I was reading osnews.com and saw this news piece running Windows NT4 MIPS on qemu in 3 easy steps. So let's look at the article. So it says that the Windows NT4 for MIPS is really similar to Windows NT4 for x86, the equivalent of BIOS or firmware or UEFI is called ARC, and that Windows NT for MIPS was developed on a hardware machine invented by Microsoft, and that machine was called MIPS Magnum. And so happens that qemu has emulation for the MIPS Magnum hardware machine. And it has a MIPS CPU, the hardware machine, standard components ISA bus, floppy controller, Ethernet, other standard components that also exist in x86 personal computer. Okay, there's very few pieces of software built for NT on MIPS. There's the first party software, which is software from Microsoft, Exchange Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Internet Explorer, Visual C++ 4, the latest and newest version of NT that shipped support for MIPS, so binaries for the MIPS CPU, is Windows NT4 SP1. Okay, so the article is blog.tmm.cx, running Windows NT4 MIPS on qemu, 3 easy steps, by Hein-Pieter van Braam. Okay, this is how a screenshot looks like. Hopefully. Okay, even says that the ARC boot firmware is similar to the UEFI. Okay, let's see how new our qemu is. We're on Ubuntu 22.04, so I'm going to guess it's good enough. No qemu. Okay, so we need qemu, ARC firmware, Windows NT for SP1 ISO. Okay, and pre-created images. If we don't want to install from the ISO with Windows NT4, there's a qcow image that we could simply run. So let's first, I know in which order, but we could see if we can boot this image. Okay, 58.2 megabytes. Unzip. Okay, so 3 files. The hard disk, so the qcow2, the ARC firmware antiprom.ro, and NVRAM, which is similar to how UEFI works, where you configure one of the partitions, usually FAT32. You configure it to be a UEFI system partition book, and this information on which partition is for firmware purposes is stored in a non-volatile RAM. Okay. Let's see if we have qemu system MIPS L 64-bit. Nothing. How do we install this thing? So we're on Jammy. It says qemu system MIPS. And the list of files. It has qemu system MIPS 64 little endian. That's what we want. Let's close some console tabs. So I paste it with middle click by clicking on the mouse wheel. Do you want to continue? Enter, because yes, it's pre-selected. Y, yes. Y. Okay. Do I need to be root to run this thing? I don't know. So it says that if I use the pre-created image, so the qcow2 that I just downloaded file, then I don't need to boot from the Windows NT4 install ISO. So I should simply omit the last part, which is -cd-rom Windows NT40 mips.iso. So this part. So let's see if it runs, and if it runs as a non-super user. Ctrl-Shift-V. So it says ARC multi-boot version 174 SGI version 2.6 copyright 1992 Microsoft Corporation. Start Windows NT Server version 4. Okay. So this is Windows NT. It booted straight into the GUI, so not like Windows 3.11 for workgroups, where you first boot in MS-DOS and then you go start Win to launch the Windows GUI. So it's very similar to the way Windows 2000 boots. It says press Ctrl Delete to log on. Let's see if I can do that. How do we do that? Not sure yet. So let's search for that. Okay, so qemu how to send Ctrl Alt Del. Okay, so they send the key from the command line, the key combination Ctrl Alt Delete. So that's what they seem to say. So I go Ctrl Alt 2 to get to where? Then send key. Ctrl Alt 1, Ctrl Alt 2, Ctrl Alt 3, yeah, 4, 6, Ctrl Alt 1, Ctrl 2. I don't know what Ctrl Alt 2 is, but Ctrl Alt 3 seems to be the place where I write my commands. So send key Alt minus Ctrl minus Delete. Okay, Ctrl Alt 1. Now, what are the user and password? No password. Okay, so I captured my mouse, and one of the combinations that could uncapture the mouse was Ctrl Alt G. Let's see that, Ctrl Alt G. Yeah, seems to work. Grab input, Ctrl Alt G. Okay. So we can't really use this thing because we don't know the password. Clean install of Windows NT 4 server for MIPS for use with qemu. The administrator password is password. pressed enter. So this screen existed in Windows 95. So this says that it was copyright is 1992. Welcome to Windows NT. What's new? I don't know what's new. So there's a start menu, very similar to Windows Windows 95. There's no program manager anymore as in Windows 3.11. There's a start menu instead, which is way better. No more file manager now is, well, the file manager continues to exist, but it's just hidden. So it's in Win-NT, System32, and then toolbar, up one directory. So it was named Win file. It's a .ini file, so it's hidden the file extensions by default. Let's show those. Hide file extensions for known file types. No, thank you. Show all files, of course. Display the full path in title bar, yes. Okay. So we need an executable that's not called Explorer and it's called something with F. Yes, way better. What's the name? So Windows File Manager, you can see that it's a Windows 3, so not an NT style application, because there's these icons for drives and this kind of tree, so not with pluses or dotted lines. winfile.exe. WinFile. Let's find that. So winfile.exe, which is the previous, it's the same file manager that evolved through Windows 1, 2, and 3. It's an MDI interface, so it has windows inside the window. Inside the file manager window, you have windows for drives. So what is D? I don't know. This is probably the CD-ROM. This is C, the primary partition on the hard disk. And this is the floppy drive. Okay. Let's look at the two file managers side by side. So on the left is Windows Explorer. It has the tree of files and locations, starting with the folder directory or the desktop directory. In Windows Explorer, directories are called folders. Windows Explorer doesn't have an MDI interface. You don't have windows inside the File Explorer window, which you have in here in File Manager. Directory is the name for directories in File Manager. Auditing. What is that? Very interesting. So File Manager running on Windows NT4, Service Pack 1 from 1996. Okay. What else? Is there a Windows update? Side of the control panel. Where is that? Okay, so the qemu2 image that we downloaded seems to work okay. Let's see how far we can go with creating the qemu image ourselves from scratch. So let's shut down the windows. Now save to turn off your computer. Power down. What else can I do? Okay, let's see if qemu keeps running. No. Okay. So we need to move the good qcow away. Okay. So let's create everything from scratch. We go qemu, create a file of 4 gigabytes. Okay. So we need to download the Windows NT install media. Save. Windows NT4 server. What is this? Save. Okay. Where are you? So we have setup, which gives us ntprom.ro, and we have the Windows NT MIPS ISO. We don't have an NVRAM yet. It will be created, okay. Okay. Let's delete the NVRAM then. So we have the ISO, an empty qcow, ntprom.ru. Where are you? This guy. And nvram, the file will be created. 10. So let's paste the command line and see what happens. 128 megabytes of RAM, machine Magnum, network interface card, an NVRAM file, BIOS, which is the ARC firmware, ntprom.ru, hard disk, the qemu2 file, and CD-ROM, the ISO file. Yeah. The first option is run a program. This function is a little like the UEFI shell. We need to run arcinst to partition the system and finally set up LDR, which actually runs the Windows NT setup. We could go as CSI disk 0 or disk partition 1, but we don't do that. We use the shortcut cd:/. Okay, so we go run a program, cd:/MIPS/arcinst. cd:/MIPS/arcinst. Path name is not defined. Invalid read. Windows NT 40 MIPS. Where are you? Windows NT 40 MIPS.iso. NT4 server MIPS qemu2 BIOS ntprom.ru. Path name is not defined. Okay. Run a program. Let's go the long way. SCSI, disk, hard disk, partition 1, backslash MIPS, backslash Alchemist. I have no clue what I'm doing. Okay, so only now it does that thing. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the screenshots one by one. So we go close the machine, boot from scratch, says run a program, yes. I know why it shows this, because it runs setup. Oh, something happens. No configure partitions. Create system partition. For 4090. I don't know why. Press any key to continue. Okay, so two partitions, one for the equivalent of UEFI path, 32 partition, which is 6 megabytes, and the rest of the space up to 4 gigabytes for the C drive, C : backslash. System partition. So this is the UEFI thing. Okay, Ctrl-Alt-G. Next. Exit and then start. Ctrl-G. What do we do? We start. Run a setup. Initialize system. System, okay. What then? Set default environment. SCSI hard disk. SCSI ID 0. Partition 2. Okay. Next. Run setup. Okay. Run the second program, which is cd MIPS setup LDR. cd /MIPS /setup LDR. Windows NT setup. It looks like the Windows 98 second edition installer or the Windows XP installer. There we just do the Windows things. So I want to continue, enter. Okie, what next? Enter to continue. License agreement F8. F8, I agree. So MIPS are 4000 Based frame buffer 364XD80 enhanced keyboard 8104 keys US mouse port mouse. The above list matches my computer. Enter to select. Ctrl G to exit mouse grab. And then I have a CFAT 4090 MB and 40893 free, and a DFAT 6 megabytes and 5 megabytes free. And I select the partition and I press enter, which is the C colon. I say format with NTFS. Ctrl G. To format the drive, press F. F. Then Windows installs Windows NT into your hard disk. Choose a location, enter to continue. Setup will examine your hard disks for corruption. How fast is this thing? May take several minutes. Ctrl G. Setup is copying files. Press enter to restart your computer. Ctrl G. And we should be back to the Arc boot menu. Not really sure that restarting works. Shutdown didn't seem to work. What is Ctrl R2? The monitor. No. So just ISA. No PCI. Should I wait or not? Okay, so the reboot failed. I go start Windows NT4. So it says converting C drive from FAT to NTFS, which is here. At this step, wait, and then reboot again, and then we're in stage 2 of the Windows installation, the stage with graphical user interface. The stages until here were text user interface. So I know now the meanings of the Ctrl Alt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons, keyboard shortcuts. So there's sysbus G364, which is the monitor of the virtual machine, Ctrl Alt 1. Then JAS LED, JAS being part of the machine built by the hardware machine built by Microsoft. So these are LEDs. I'm guessing this is the hard disk LED or the CPU LED or the activity monitor LED. Compat monitor 0, Ctrl Alt 3, where I can input qemu commands. And then serial 0, Ctrl Alt 4. I didn't do anything on the serial console and connection. And then parallel 0, Ctrl Alt 5. So back to sysbus G364, which is the computer screen. So it says converting file system has been dead in here for minutes. We'll just try to reboot. It will not work. No power down. So we need to close the machine. Okay. So now we're at the graphical user interface stage of the installer. So again, rebooting the machine doesn't really work. So we need to close qemu in order to reboot the system, the virtual machine. Okay, gathering information about your computer. Name and organization. No thanks. Please locate your 10-digit CD key. No CD key. This is a screenshot. Let's see. 020 tab 6225222. Okie dokie, thank you. Okay. Two client licensing modes per server, 0 concurrent connections. Each concurrent connection to this computer requires a separate client license access, CL client access license per seat. I don't know. I see that per seat was selected in the blog article. Next, name of the what? Server. Great. All uppercase server. Next. It can be an Active Directory domain controller. Okay, so I go primary domain controller. Administrator account already exists. Password, that's what the blog article does. Create an emergency repair disk. No. Components to install. Windows messaging, what's that? Email. Games. We select everything, right? Yes. Next. So it says 27 megabytes. So it actually selected all of the accessories and multimedia. Next. Networking. Wired IS. Start search. Next. It did TCP/IP. Great. It's 1996, so Windows 95 was out already. IPX. So it says IIS version 2, which is the web server from Microsoft. NetBIOS interface workstation server. So workstation is, as it were, Samba client. So client for SMB CIFS is the server and the client is workstation. Okay. We wish to use DHCP, yes. Services. Network bindings. Server and domain. Finish. And everything's checked, including Internet Service Manager HTML. Internet Service Manager. So this is the Internet Information Setup, IIS setup. Gopher service, FTP service. So service in the sense of server. The server part of the Gopher server, FTP server. www server. CNet poop www root. Okay. You do not have an internet domain name declared on this machine, no DNS servers. To ensure proper Gopher functionality, an internet domain name should be configured through the network control panel applet. Drivers ODBC. Okay, we can keep that. And it says the system found the following video adapter for your machine, JAWS 364 display adapter. Okay. And I can't change the resolution because it's hard-coded in the BIOS. In ARC, color palette fixed to 265, so no 32-bit colors. Install modes. Okay, that's what we use. Okay, so the last step of installing, which congratulates me and tells me that I should remove the CD-ROM. So I go restart computer. Not enough will happen, I'm guessing. Okay, so since rebooting doesn't work, I need to close qemu, and then I should probably remove the ISO from the CD-ROM. Start again. Okay, it boots automatically. I need to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete, and I don't know how to do that. So view compat monitor, send E, alt minus ctrl minus delete. And then back to sysbus. The password is password. Okay, and we're back to where we started with using the pre-made qcow2 image. We use the ready-made qcow image. Which is this one. And then we created the qcow2 image from scratch using steps these. We've downloaded this zip archive with the ARC and this ISO. This file was created from scratch, and then the steps were to basically consider the text secondary and consider the images as primary. So you go through all of the screenshots. These. So the text is just an aid. The gold primary thing to do and to follow is the screenshots. So you do these 5, and then you do these. And then these for the first part of the NT install. And then these for the GUI install steps of Windows NT. And now we're inside the Windows NT, and we could start some programs. What's there? Where are the games hidden? Because we've selected to install all of the games. In accessories. Pinball. 3D pinball for Windows Space Cadet. System properties. Explore, right click on start menu, explore, and then right click on computer properties. So exactly the same way it works on Windows XP. Ctrl-G to exit mouse grab in qemu. And except from the software that's already inside of this qcow2 image, there's really little executables or installers made for Windows NT version 4 MIPS. One that I know of is the dependency view walker. This guy has a NT version. Let's see if we have Internet Explorer in here. We should or we shouldn't have. So Internet Explorer exists, but I couldn't find it in the start menu for some reason. It's called Microsoft Internet Explorer. There's no full text search on the start menu. Okay, so let's see if we can navigate to www.dependencywalker.com. Nothing because it's HTTPS and I'm guessing it doesn't do HTTPS. Secure website. The version being version 1 for MIPS. This thing. And in the screenshot in the article there's also PuTTY. This guy. Okay, so thank you. This was how to install and run Windows NT version 4 Service Pack 1 from 1996 inside qemu. So the big thing here is MIPS architecture and CPU. Thank you.